The garage light flickered overhead as I tightened the last bolt on my truck's transmission. Grease covered my hands, and the familiar smell of motor oil filled my nostrils. It was past midnight, but sleep wasn't coming easy these days. Not with Beth acting so strange, taking those mysterious business trips to Los Angeles every other week. My phone buzzed against the workbench. A text from my wife. James, I want an open marriage. This isn't negotiable. We can discuss the details when I get back from LA next week. I stared at the screen for a long moment, wiping my hands on an old rag, 22 years of marriage, 2 daughters, a house we built together, a business we started from nothing, and she sends me this through a text message like she's ordering takeout. I typed back one word, understood. But I wasn't just acknowledging her message. I was declaring war. I walked through our house, my house, since I'd paid for every brick and board with my electrical contracting business. The family photos on the mantel looked different now, like they were mocking me. Beth's smile seemed fake in every single one. Had it always been that way? The silence felt heavy. Our daughters, Emma and Sophie, were staying at my mother's house for the week, while Beth was supposedly closing some big corporate deal in California. The timing seemed convenient now. I went to my office and pulled up our joint bank account on the computer. Beth had been busy. 3 withdrawals in the past month, each for $500. Cash withdrawals, the kind you make when you don't want a paper trail. My phone rang. Ray Martinez, my old boxing coach who now ran the gym downtown. Jimmy, you awake? Saw your garage light on. Yeah, I'm up. What's going on? Listen, I don't know how to tell you this, but I saw Beth's car parked outside the Sunset Motel tonight. Room 12. Your brother John's truck was there too? The words hit me like a punch to the gut. John, my younger brother, the golden boy who could never hold a job, never commit to anything, never take responsibility for his mistakes. The brother I'd bailed out of trouble more times than I could count. You sure it was them? Pretty sure, Jimmy. I'm sorry, man. I thought you should know. After Ray hung up, I sat in my office chair, staring at the wall. Everything made sense now. John's sudden interest in family gatherings, his new clothes and mysterious income, Beth's late nights at work, and her defensive attitude whenever I asked questions. I opened my laptop and started typing. First, I changed all our online banking passwords. Then I called our credit card companies and reported Beth's cards as potentially compromised. I contacted our insurance agent and removed Beth as a beneficiary on my life insurance policy. By sunrise, I had methodically begun erasing Beth from our shared financial reality. But this was just the beginning. The next morning, I drove to the Sunset Motel. The desk clerk, a skinny kid with acne scars, recognized me. Hey, Mr. Thompson, you looking for your wife? She was here last night with some guy. Looked a lot like you, actually. My brother, I said, handing him a 20. What room? 12. They've been coming here every Tuesday for about 2 months. Every Tuesday. Beth's supposed yoga class. I'd even bought her the expensive mat and workout clothes she'd requested. I walked around to room 12 and peered through a gap in the curtains. The bed was unmade, and I could see Beth's distinctive red scarf draped over a chair. John's leather jacket hung on the door handle. I took photos with my phone, making sure to capture the room number and their belongings. Then I waited. At 10:30, they emerged. Beth looked radiant, laughing at something John had whispered in her ear. She wore the dress I'd bought her for our anniversary last year. John had his arm around her waist, and they were acting like teenagers. I followed them at a distance as they drove to Murphy's Diner on Main Street. They sat in a corner booth, holding hands across the table. I parked where I could see them through the window and took more photos. My phone buzzed, a text from Beth. Working late again tonight. Don't wait up. I watched her send the message while sitting across from my brother, then lean over to give him a lingering embrace. The audacity was breathtaking. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. That afternoon, I went to John's apartment. He lived in a converted garage behind Mrs. Henderson's house, the same place he'd been renting since his last divorce 3 years ago. I had a spare key from when I'd helped him move in. The apartment was a mess, as usual, empty bottles, dirty clothes, and unpaid bills scattered everywhere. But I wasn't there for housekeeping. I searched through his dresser and found what I was looking for. A shoebox full of letters and photos. Love letters from Beth. Dozens of them, dating back 6 months. Explicit photos I recognized as being taken in our bedroom, in our house, while I was at work. Hotel receipts from places they'd visited together. A burner phone with hundreds of text messages between them. I photographed everything, then put it all back exactly as I'd found it. John would never know I'd been there. But the real treasure was at the bottom of the box, a handwritten note from Beth's best friend, Candace Williams. B. Stick to the plan. Get him to file for divorce first. Then you can claim abandonment and get half of everything, including the business. John's testimony about James's violent temper will help. Remember, we're doing this for your future. See? Candace. I should have known she was involved. She'd never liked me, not since I'd fired her from my company 5 years ago for embezzling money from our payroll account. I'd been merciful then, not pressing charges because she was Beth's friend. Apparently, that mercy had been a mistake. Now I understood the real game. This wasn't just about an affair. This was a calculated plan to destroy me financially and personally. They wanted to take everything I'd built and leave me with nothing. But they'd made one crucial error. They'd underestimated me. I spent the next week preparing. First, I met with my lawyer, David Chen, and showed him everything I'd discovered. The photos, the letters, the financial records, the burner phone evidence. James, this is a gold mine, he said, spreading the documents across his desk. With evidence like this, Beth won't get a penny in a divorce settlement. In fact, you could probably sue her and John for alienation of affection. I don't want money from them, I said. I want justice. What kind of justice? The kind that makes them understand exactly what they've done. David leaned back in his chair. Be careful, James. Don't do anything that could be construed as harassment or intimidation. Document everything, but stay within legal boundaries. I assured him I would, but I was already formulating a plan that would operate in the gray areas of the law. Next, I visited Ray at his gym. The place was mostly empty in the afternoon, just a few regulars working the heavy bags. Ray was behind the bar, polishing glasses and watching a boxing match on the television above the mirror. You look like hell, Jimmy, he said as I approached. I feel worse than I look, but I need your help with something. I explained the situation, showing him some of the evidence I'd gathered. Ray's expression grew darker with each revelation. That's low, even for John, he said. What do you need from me? I'm going to expose them publicly, but I need witnesses, and I need it to happen somewhere they can't run away or make excuses. Ray nodded slowly. The annual Chamber of Commerce dinner is next Saturday. Beth's company is one of the sponsors, and John will probably be there as her date. Half the town attends that thing. Perfect. Can you make sure certain people are there, people who matter in this community? Consider it done. That evening, I returned home to find Beth packing a suitcase. She looked startled when I walked into the bedroom. James, you scared me. I didn't hear you come in. Going somewhere? Another business trip, Chicago this time. I'll be back Sunday. I nodded, pretending to believe her. How's the new job working out? Great. Really great. The opportunities for advancement are incredible. I'm happy for you, I said, and I meant it. She was about to advance right out of my life. After she left, I went through her remaining belongings. In her jewelry box, I found a second burner phone I hadn't known about. This one contained messages with someone named Derek Morrison, her supervisor at the marketing firm where she worked. The messages were explicit and romantic, dating back 4 months. Beth wasn't just cheating with my brother. She was running a full-scale operation, juggling multiple relationships while planning to financially destroy me. I forwarded the most damaging messages to my own phone, then put everything back in place. Beth's web of lies was more complex than I'd imagined, but it was also more fragile. One good pull on the right thread, and the whole thing would unravel. Saturday couldn't come fast enough. The Chamber of Commerce dinner was held at the Lakeside Lodge, a rustic venue overlooking Miller's Pond. I arrived early, wearing my best suit and carrying a leather briefcase that contained printed copies of all the evidence I'd gathered. Ray had done his job well. Mayor Patricia Wells was there, along with Police Chief Robert Hayes, several city council members, and most of the local business owners. The room buzzed with conversation and the clinking of wine glasses. Beth arrived at 7:30, stunning in a black cocktail dress I'd never seen before. John was beside her, wearing a rented tuxedo and acting like he belonged among the community's elite. They made their rounds, shaking hands and making small talk, playing the part of a happy couple. Candace was there too, lurking near the bar and watching me with suspicious eyes. She'd always been sharp, and I could tell she sensed something was wrong. Good. Let her worry. At 8 o'clock, the formal program began. Mayor Wells gave a speech about economic development, followed by presentations from various business leaders. Beth's company was scheduled to speak about their expansion plans in our community. When Derek Morrison, Beth's supervisor, took the podium, I felt a surge of satisfaction. He was here, just as I'd hoped, the final piece of my puzzle. Ladies and gentlemen, Morrison began, we're excited to announce that our firm will be opening a permanent satellite office here, with Beth Thompson as our regional director. Applause filled the room. Beth beamed, standing to acknowledge the recognition. Jon clapped enthusiastically beside her, acting like a proud boyfriend. That's when I made my move. I stood up and raised my hand. "Excuse me, Mr. Morrison. I have a question." Morrison looked surprised, but nodded. "Of course." "I'm James Thompson, Beth's husband. I was wondering if your company has policies about supervisors engaging in romantic relationships with their subordinates." The room went silent. Morrison's face turned pale. Beth looked like she'd been struck by lightning. "I'm not sure what you're implying," Morrison stammered. I opened my briefcase and pulled out a stack of printed text messages. "I'm implying that you and my wife have been conducting an affair for the past 4 months, while she's also been involved with my brother Jon. I have documented evidence of both relationships." Gasps echoed through the room. Beth stood up abruptly, knocking over her wine glass. "James, what are you doing?" "I'm telling the truth," I said calmly. "Something that seems to be in short supply around here lately." I walked to the front of the room, where Morrison stood frozen behind the podium. "May I?" He stepped aside, and I took his place at the microphone. The room was completely quiet now, all eyes focused on me. "Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for interrupting this lovely evening, but I have some information I think you should know about the people your community is about to trust with a significant business investment." I began reading selected text messages between Beth and Morrison, then between Beth and Jon. The explicit nature of the communications was shocking enough, but the calculated planning was what really captured the audience's attention. "Here's a message from Beth to my brother Jon, dated 3 weeks ago. Once James files for divorce, we can claim he abandoned the family business, and I'll get half of everything in the settlement, then we can be together openly." Jon had gone completely white and was edging toward the exit. I nodded to Ray, who casually moved to block the door. "And here's one from Beth to Mr. Morrison. Don't worry about James finding out. He's too stupid and trusting to figure it out. Once I'm divorced, we can transfer the business account to the Cayman Islands like we planned." Beth finally found her voice. "James, stop this. You're embarrassing yourself." "I'm embarrassing myself?" I laughed, and the sound echoed through the silent room. "Beth, you've been conducting affairs with 2 different men while planning to steal my business and destroy my reputation. You've involved our daughters in your lies, used our home for your betrayals, and conspired with your friend Candace to frame me as an abusive husband." I pulled out more documents. "Speaking of Candace, here are the bank records showing payments from Beth's personal account to Candace Williams, totaling $15,000 over the past 6 months. Payments for what, Candace? For helping orchestrate this elaborate scheme?" Candace had been trying to slip out unnoticed, but now everyone turned to look at her. She froze like a deer in headlights. "This has gone far enough," Beth said, her voice shaking. "James, I want a divorce. I don't love you anymore, and I haven't for years. But this public humiliation isn't necessary." "You're right," I said. "A private conversation would have been better. But you chose to handle this through text messages, lies, and financial manipulation. You made it public when you decided to parade around town with my brother while telling everyone what a terrible husband I am." I turned to address the room again. "I want you all to know that I'm not the violent, unstable man these people have been describing to anyone who would listen. I'm a small business owner who employed 12 people in this community for 15 years. I coached Little League for 8 seasons. I've donated to every charity drive and helped build 3 Habitat for Humanity houses." The crowd murmured in agreement. Many of these people had known me for decades. "But I'm also a man who won't be made a fool of. Beth, you can have your divorce. Jon, you can have your relationship with my wife. And Mr. Morrison, you can have your business expansion. But you'll do it all without my money, my property, or my reputation." I pulled out the final document, a legal notice that had been filed with the county clerk that morning. "As of today, I'm dissolving Thompson Electrical and selling all business assets. The proceeds will be used to pay outstanding debts and employee severances. Beth, since you're no longer employed by Morrison's company as of right now, and you will be terminated, won't you, Mr. Morrison? You'll need to find another source of income." Morrison nodded weakly. His company couldn't afford the scandal of keeping Beth employed after this public revelation. "Jon, your truck is being repossessed tomorrow morning. Turns out those loan payments you've been missing have caught up with you. I called the bank this afternoon." Jon's face crumpled. "Jimmy, please. I can explain." "No explanation necessary. I understand perfectly." I gathered my documents and stepped away from the podium. The room remained silent as I walked toward the exit. At the door, I turned back one final time. "Beth, I'll have divorce papers drawn up by Monday. You can keep whatever you brought into this marriage 22 years ago. Everything else stays with me, including our daughter's college funds. which you'll be happy to know I moved to accounts in their names only. Beth was crying now, her carefully constructed world collapsing around her. Jon sat slumped in his chair, defeated. Candace had disappeared entirely, probably calculating how to distance herself from the wreckage. "One more thing," I said. "I've sent copies of all this evidence to the district attorney's office. Candace, you might want to hire a lawyer. Conspiracy to commit fraud is a serious charge." I walked out of the lakeside lodge and into the cool night air. Behind me, I could hear the eruption of voices as the community processed what they'd just witnessed. My phone was already buzzing with calls and text messages, but I ignored them all. I drove home to my house, and poured myself a whiskey. 22 years of marriage, finished. A brother I'd loved and supported, gone. A business I'd built from nothing, ended. But for the first time in months, I felt free. I sat on my front porch, looking out at the quiet street where I'd raised my daughters and built my life. Tomorrow would bring lawyers and paperwork and difficult conversations with Emma and Sophie. There would be gossip and judgment and the challenge of starting over at 43 years old. But tonight, I was simply a man who had told the truth and refused to be destroyed by the people who claimed to love him. My phone rang. It was Emma, my older daughter. "Dad, I just got a call from Grandma. She said something happened at the chamber dinner?" "Yes, sweetheart. Something happened. But everything's going to be okay." "Are you and Mom getting divorced?" I looked up at the stars, clearer now than they'd been in years. "Yes, we are. But that doesn't change how much I love you and your sister." "I know, Dad. Mom's been acting weird lately. Sophie and I kind of figured something was going on." "I'm sorry you had to go through this." "It's not your fault. When are you coming to get us from Grandma's?" "Tomorrow morning. We have a lot to talk about." After I hung up, I remained on the porch for another hour, planning the conversation I'd have with my daughters. They deserved honesty, but they also deserved protection from the ugliest details of what their mother had done. The house felt different now, not empty, but clean, like a weight had been lifted from every room. I thought about Beth, probably sitting in some hotel room with Jon, trying to figure out how to salvage their situation. I thought about Morrison, frantically calling his corporate headquarters to explain why his expansion plans had just imploded. I thought about Candace, consulting criminal defense attorneys and wondering how much prison time she might face, but mostly I thought about the future. For the first time in years, it belonged entirely to me. The garage light was still on from when I'd been working on my truck the night I received Beth's text message. That felt like a lifetime ago, though it had only been 2 weeks. I walked back to the garage and turned off the light. Then I locked up the house and went to bed in my own room, in my own home, with my conscience clear and my integrity intact. Tomorrow, I would begin building a new life. Tonight, I would sleep peacefully, knowing that sometimes the truth really can set you free. The last thing I heard before drifting off was the sound of a car driving slowly past my house, probably some neighbor trying to get a look at the man who had just turned their quiet community upside down. Let them look. I had nothing left to hide.